Hey, everybody. It is Thursday. Oh, we're going to make it, Molly. You and I.
Close.
Just drag me over to finish line.
Just.
Woo.
Ka-chunk.
And then tonight we have to do our first appearance together in public at a private event. But today we're going to talk about a huge M&A out of nowhere. Adobe is buying Figma for $20 billion.
Billion. This is like startup fairy tale right now. We just get to play the full Prince Charming startup dream from start to finish. We're going to do the seed investor multiples all the way to the acquisition. It's delightful. And then we're going to talk about
the justification for this. Like, so we go into the detail of how does Adobe justify paying probably 300 or 400 times revenue for this company. It's a really important discussion for founders.
And how you, startup founder, when we ask you what happens when the incumbent builds the thing you're building, we're going to give you the answer to that question also.
And then our guy Lon Harris is here for This Week in Streaming. We're going to talk about the Emmy wins. We're going to talk about the layoffs General Zodloff is doing at Warner Brothers. Some new shows coming out that you should look for, including the Spotify story and Blade Runner 2099 from my guy.
Love Thursdays. Thursdays are the best. It's going to be a great show.
Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by LinkedIn Marketing. To redeem a free $100 LinkedIn ad credit and launch your first campaign, go to linkedin.com/thisweekinstartups. SnackMagic and SwagMagic are global gifting platforms and the most stress-free and customizable way to delight employees or customers. Get 10% cash back up to $1,000 until October 15th with code HOLIDAY. And see more at snackmagic.com/twist. And the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub helps all founders build a better startup at a lower cost from day one. Open to anyone with an idea, you'll get up to $150,000 in Azure credits, technical advisory, access to mentors and experts, free dev tools, and so much more. There is no funding requirement, and it only takes minutes to join. Sign up today at aka.ms/thisweekinstartups.
All right, so we've been doing Series A and M&A, and since we have started that, this is the biggest M&A news, I think, to come along that actually just people are like so excited about, and a massive exit. Adobe has agreed to acquire Figma for $20 billion. According to Bloomberg, this would be, I mean, right? This is like all that cash that everybody's been piling up, apparently. Nice. Adobe using its stimmies on Figma. $20 billion. According to Bloomberg, this would be the largest ever takeover of a private software company. The market did not like it. Adobe's stock was down 18%. Adobe's market cap is currently $147 billion. And Adobe is reporting quarterly earnings for fiscal Q3 today. According to our guy, Alex Wilhelm, he noted the markup from its Series A. PitchBook pegs the post-money valuation of the Figma Series A at $48.3 million.
And a juicy Series A at that.
And that was a pretty juicy Series A. And here, this makes for a 413x return at $20 billion.
Just keep in mind, if those returns did not take their pro rata, in other words, they didn't keep investing, and they did 5 rounds, which they did after that. They did a B, C, D, and E, I think. Yeah. Each of those rounds would dilute 10%. You compound the 10% or even 20%. You might have 50% of that. So it would net out to maybe a 200x return. That means if you did put $5 million in there, you returned 200 times 5 million, $1 billion on a $5 million investment. It's a living.
It's a living.
It's a living.
That
and
was
if you're fun, we talk about fun size sometimes.
I just got to pause and say, as a podcasting moment, mic drop. Yeah. It's a living.
It's a living. Now this would have come out of a $250 million fund. So the first $250 million would go to return the principal invested. You'd have $750 million in gains from that fund just off this one investment. Let's assume all the other investments in the fund went to zero. Just a little back of the envelope math here. 20% of $750 million, $150 million for the partners, 5 partners in the firm, 5 partners in the firm of that size. 5 partners divided by $150 million, $30 million each partner. Everybody's getting a plane. Everybody's getting a ski house. Let's go. It's a living.
So I feel like we should do a little what is Figma and why'd they buy it?
Figma is
it's the software
for
design startup.
Creating mock-ups for UX and UI. InVision would be a contemporary. So if you're designing something as a team, your designers will make it in Figma. You can click on it. So when I get a new version of Insight, when they do the job board at Insight, insight.com/jobs, they would send it to me in Figma and we'd have conversations on it. So it's collaboration around the production of web-based products, iPhone apps, etc. And then so people will do what's called user interface, UI, or UX, which stands for user experience.
You don't have to go all the way back to level 100
I was doing it for the sake of the audience, not you, Molly. But
okay, good.
But anyway, it's multiplayer is what you need to understand. So you know how Microsoft Word, single player, you edit the document, you send everybody the document, you get 4 copies of the document back, and you're like, oh my God, 4 different sets of edits?
Yep.
In Figma, it's live. You're on the web, you get a link, you hit play, and on your phone in the browser, it looks like the app. So you can actually build an entire app in Figma that's what's called a clickable mock-up. So then the CEO, the sales team, everybody can play with it. And then you hold on it and you put a comment. Hey, I don't understand why we're putting, this piece of copy here. Shouldn't it say this? Then somebody else replies, oh, we had this discussion. Here's a link to our Coda Notion page where we discussed that. But you can have discussions like you do in a Google spreadsheet or doc.
It's amazing. And you can see why it should be the kind of thing that Adobe... This is a classic disruptor story. Like Adobe tried to build this with Adobe Express. They, people were like, we want you to be more web-based. The idea of collaboration, once Google made that completely obvious and available to everybody with docs and sheets and all the different ways that you could collaborate in real time, it was like unacceptable not to have that. And when Adobe tried to build it, it just didn't, when you're the incumbent, you have a hard time. Like, companies come to us all the time and say, and I'm like, and we say, well, what happens if Uber just builds this or Adobe builds it or Apple does it or whatever? And what they say is, when you're the incumbent, it's really hard to do this. And we're just hoping they'd rather buy us than build it. And this is an example of Figma being right.
Well, and here's, if you double click even one more time, we'll call this the triple click. So that was a great double click. I'm going to do another double click on your double click. This grew virally. Now, this is where network effects and virality and growth are so important. So the answer typically to the question you pose, the valid question, what if Uber does this? What if Microsoft does it? What if Adobe does it? Is, well, we have virality built into the product. So we're going to grow so fast, they won't be able to catch up and then we'll be the standard. So because it was multiplayer mode, just like in Notion, Coda, Slack, Google Docs, you say @Jason, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I click on the link and it's like, you don't have an account. If you want to reply to this comment, log in with your Google account, log in with your Twitter account, whatever, log in with your Microsoft account. That virality is what creates the gap. Now, what Adobe should have done was they should have made their version of this free. FREE.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah.
And that would be the way to do them. Who faced a similar challenge and made it free and won? Can you think of a situation where somebody had virality as a startup?
Yeah.
They won the day. And then a bigger company made it free and screwed them and had so much headwinds that the company had to take drastic action.
I don't know what example you're thinking of, but I sort of feel like it had to have been like Apple or Amazon. Microsoft, right? Microsoft did. Oh, thanks. Microsoft Teams.
Versus Slack. All right. Look at the whisper in the ear. So anyway.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Remember Slack?
It's like you guys talk all the time.
I spend too much time with Jason.
I was just going to say, it's like you guys are one brain up in here.
So, I mean, somebody said at some point to Slack, what if Microsoft gets in this game? And it's like, well, they will. And we'll have created, I think when they sold to Salesforce, it was 25 billion or 30 billion. So, even more than this sale. And they had gone public, but they just turned Microsoft Teams on for everybody, which kind of makes you think the new antitrust is to make a product free and bundle it, which is what Microsoft got in trouble with IA. Bundling always a little red flag. But how do you argue against bundling if you're giving something for free? It's kind of hard because there's no consumer harm. Obviously it does. And does it make competition go down? No, it makes the other people work harder to provide value. So anyway,
I don't mean to be a big antitrust nerd, but consumer harm is just generally reflected as higher prices, but that's not like the statute. So a big argument in the antitrust circle is saying like, we got to measure consumer harm in a different way. What does the lack of competition actually mean?
And then we're stretching for like some alternative universe, right? Now you're in alternative universe land. Like, has Microsoft made Slack better? Of course it has. Microsoft Teams made Slack 10 times better. That was like a kick in the ass they needed.
Yep.
Now they have to justify 100%. Their existence.
And I think Slack is still winning, but it's close, right?
I think Slack is still growing, but I don't think people who use Microsoft Office or have, what is Microsoft 365, are going to embrace Slack.
Yeah.
They're just going to use Teams because they're already logged in and it's there. And people who are in Zoom, because Zoom is going to launch a Zoom Teams, or what are they calling the Zoom Slack competitor that I had
Zoom
predicted 2
communications
years ago?
I don't know, Zoom chat,
persistent
something
chat
like that.
will be coming to
Zoom Team Chat.
Zoom Team Chat. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Zoom Teams. They should call it Zoom Teams. The end, full stop. But it's not free because it's part of a paid bundle, Molly. So then how does antitrust look at that? I know this is like super nuanced and we're in the weeds here.
No, I love it.
Yeah, congratulations to Figma.
Congratulations
I think a lot
to
of
Figma
Figma
and
people
those seed
are,
investors.
How did they do? Because that must have been a $10, $20 million valuation.
So Nick did the calculation for us. Index Ventures led the seed at a $14.8 million valuation. So this is a 1,351x from the seed. The total total invested capital in the seed round was $3.8 million. So if we're assuming that Index did half of that as the lead, or $1.9 million times 1,000x, that would be a $1.9 billion return.
And I would cut it in half because dilution possibly. But they're the type of firm that might actually take their pro rata every time. But if they didn't take their pro rata, it'd be a 500x. And so these things do happen. 1,000x is incredibly rare in a career. So congratulations to everybody who joined the one comma club in multiples. I've been there myself, and it's a wonderful place to be. I hope to get there with one more in my career. It's just a hard one to get to. But if this is $20 billion,
it's a great story. Yeah,
Adobe's making $5 billion. How much is Adobe making a year? They make $4 billion a quarter or something like that. They're a $20 billion run rate.
So they're recording. Yeah, Q3 revenue was $4.4 billion, so up 13%. Yeah. They've gotten clobbered, obviously post-pandemic stock drop, but interestingly has only $5.7 billion in cash and short-term investments. So
they can get cash from somebody.
They're taking on some debt, maybe.
Or they're doing stock. I bet you they're going to do stock because the stock is low right now.
It's half cash, half stock.
Perfect. $10 billion in cash. They can get a loan for that, at a low interest rate from somebody, not as low as it used to be. And then they can, I guess they get a bond basically. And then the other 10% means $10 billion in they're 150 billion market cap, something in that range,
143.
Okay, yeah. So, it's not even 10% of that in stock. This is the same as WhatsApp. Everybody thought WhatsApp was a stupid purchase. Because it was, at the time, was it 10 or 15% of Facebook's value, I think? Here's what I'll say. This is a blocker strategy as well.
Yes.
This is removing the existential threat. If Figma then started to make Photoshop, Illustrator, is Adobe Premiere?
Yep. Premiere is the video editor.
So, if Figma is doing so well, they go public, maybe they start buying or building their own suite and they just go 1, 2, 3 down the line.
Because they were at the go public point. At least it seems like revenue and growth wise. Yeah. 100%.
I wonder what their revenue was. That would be good to get the multiple of revenue for Figma. I don't have Figma's revenue. It's not a public company.
Right.
But I'm going to take a guess at it right now.
Last valuation, if this helps you, was $10 billion.
Okay, so $10 billion. They could have gotten 100 times revenue, which would have been $100 million in revenue. Yeah. They could have had $200 million in revenue and done 50 times. So I'm going to guess they got 50 to 100 times their top line revenue. Now that sounds crazy, right? To pay that much. But if Figma in any way would have destroyed revenue and market cap of Adobe, which it obviously was doing.
Already was.
Then you just look at your market cap and you're like, well, listen, this is going to keep us from getting to a $250 billion market cap. We take it out now, we remove an existential threat. So it's like a really easy layup of a decision, even though if Wall Street doesn't like it, you wouldn't like Adobe stock going sideways for the next 5 years or going down. That would be a worse situation. And if they bundle it with their product or they expose their existing user base to it, maybe they could increase revenue 50%. They could accelerate revenue 25%. If they accelerate revenue 25%, 50% for the next 3 years, well, then that takes that multiple down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the multiple wouldn't seem as bad as it is. So that's what they call in the M&A business, having a thesis. Hey, everybody. I'm here with my pal, Tom Eschbacher. He is the Senior Sales Manager at LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. And today, we're going to talk about marketing for startups. And LinkedIn did a great new internal report called Today in Startup Marketing. Welcome to the program, Tom.
Thanks, Jason.
One of the main topics covered in the report is validating product market fit. That's so essential. So how does marketing play a role in validating PMF?
One of the challenges from the pandemic was it disrupted normal feedback loops that startups get, and particularly when trying to scale assumptions based on small sample sizes. You can't go to conferences anymore. You can't do events. And so we've seen a clever adoption of LinkedIn's free analytics tools here. And one that's become table stakes, and I mean 92% of Series A startups are using it, is the LinkedIn Insight tag. A feature here is the website demographics functionality that provides a valuable view on your site visitors' professional attributes. What's their job function, their seniority level, what company are they at, the industry, the company size. This is all a bunch of actionable insight that you can use to back up your instincts around who your addressable market is and help inform early marketing strategies.
Fantastic. Okay, and so if you would like to get this incredible report, you can go to linkedin.com/thisweekinstartups. And not only can you get the report for free, you're also going to get $100 off your first marketing campaign from Tom at LinkedIn. Way to go, Tom. So post-merger, what's your thesis? The post-merger thesis for YouTube was what?
The post-merger thesis for YouTube was YouTube's going to continue to grow and be something that gets us customer lock-in and accounts.
We can distribute it across our cloud. And to every country, because we're already in every country.
Did they have the cloud then? But yeah. We can distribute it across our network.
Not the public. They had the private network. So they said, listen, to YouTube, like, we're buying this for 1.6. Who cares? Like, we're going to be able to send this. We've already got Google search working in 100 countries.
Every time you search for anything, you get a YouTube video.
Exactly.
The end. Yeah.
Instagram, they were like, hey, listings at whatever it was, 50, 100 million users, I think, when they sold it. We got 1 billion. Like, we could just, if we let them cross-post their Instagram to Facebook, we can get grandma and, Uncle Joe and cousin Bobby over to Instagram. So that's the thesis, is like, if we owned it, what can we do to accelerate its growth? Mm-hmm. And Salesforce probably had a similar thing with Slack. Hey, if we owned it and we exposed everybody who is in the Salesforce group to it, could we do more? If we had our Salesforce sales team selling it, would we be better than Slack's existing team? So those are the what do they call it? Machinations? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Machinations, yeah.
It's the machinations that the M&A team and the CEO and the BD, the business team, go through to justify paying a high price. What if? So they make a couple of scenarios and they say, what are the chances of these 3 scenarios happening? And that's something when you're building a company that you can work on to increase the sale price. Okay, yeah, you want to buy inside.com? Yeah, it's a social network. It's got 15,000 people on it. But if it was owned by Business Insider or Vox, and you put all your 500 journalists on it, in addition to our 25, now you'd have 500 journalists participating. They would each bring 1,000 people. Now you'd have 500,000 people in the service. So if Jim Bankoff at Vox were to buy inside.com, that would be my pitch to him. Just like, you don't have a social network. You've got 500 journalists. Put all 500 journalists on here. Have them start talking about their stories. They all have Twitter followings. Now you've got a social network that competes with LinkedIn for all these businesses. That's pretty good. Maybe I could talk.
Did you just make that up? Oh,
I just made it off the top of my head. But I always think about the acquirer and what they would do. I was just thinking.
You should probably clip this and send that to him.
Okay, anyway, somebody clip this and just at Bankoff it. Hey, at Bankoff, let's talk. Yeah. Overpay me for my startup. Let's go. Let's have some machinations over some theories.
Yeah, that's a good pitch. You should write that down for sure.
Before we move on, can I ask you a diligence question about
this? Yes, sir.
So is it standard practice for the Adobe team to cross-reference Figma users with their own users to see how much upside they have in terms of like, how much expansion can you really have if so much of the users are overlapping?
So this is a little touchy, right? Because you don't want to expose your whole client list. So what you would do is you would take a sample of them. Say, who are your 10 biggest customers? Okay, it's IBM, okay, and you got Microsoft, you got Apple, great. We have all those. How many seats do you have at Apple? Oh, you've got 700 seats at Apple? We've got 7,000. Okay, great. There sounds like the difference between 7,000 and 700 is 6,300. There's 6,300 people who we could probably just turn this on for, and wow, revenue comes pouring in. So yes, that does happen. When we sold Weblogs Inc. to Jim Bankoff, who was at AOL at the time as an executive vice president, they did look at Engadget, Autoblog, Joystick, and say, who are the top advertisers? Oh, Samsung, and at the time Radio Shack and THX and PlayStation, whoever. And they're like, oh yeah, we have them as advertisers too. And it's like, yeah, we sold them a $250,000 deal. Like, oh yeah, we have them on a $25 million a year deal. So it was like, okay. And the theory for AOL and Bankoff when they bought us was the AOL tech channel and the auto channels are sold out. We have no more inventory, but we have a lot of users. So if we just link to, Molly, the top 3 stories on Engadget and Autoblog every day, we can take the ads and we make Engadget part of the AOL tech ad buy. We make Autoblog part of the AOL Autos ad buy. You have better stories than us. Put the 3 stories there. Boom, we ship them over there. And Brian Alvey built Blogsmith, and it could scale, and it had like kind of CDN-ish kind of features in it. It was really good in terms of caching. They would send us 500,000 people. They had sold out the ads for $100 CPM. All of a sudden, boom, $50,000 in ads, boom, in one day. Boom, 50,000 ads one day. They bought the company for $30 million. They immediately got us from 300,000 or 400,000 in revenue to 5-10 million in revenue, like just year over year. So their thesis was, we're sold out anyway. Everybody wants more impressions.
We
in
need
these 2
more
categories.
inventory. We have an infrastructure to turn this on. Yeah, totally. Fascinating.
Looks like Surge Dog, my guy.
VSCB,
Nody. He says
Nody,
2021 revenue is 51 million. I think I said 50 to 100 or 100 to 200.
You sure did. Yep. This is VSCB Insights.
So I said 50 million would be 20 times revenue, right? Top line. I'm sorry, 100 million times 100. So maybe 2022 was looking like 100 million. 100 times 100 is 10 billion.
Yeah.
And they probably doubled it. So there you have it, folks. So that would be 400x last year's revenue. But you would look at the run rate. So what happened last month? They got to have twice as much revenue. So if that point in time they were doing 4 million a month, they're probably doing 10 million a month now, 20 million a month, something like that. So the multiple would come down. But it's in the line of overpaying on a multiple.
And it being worth it, as we just broke down.
Great
All right, well,
job.
let's talk about a whole different thesis, because there was like another huge breaking news story late yesterday, that we're going to unpack today because it took us that long to wrap our heads around it. Reverse M&A. Patagonia CEO dumps his company. Patagonia's founder is giving the company away to fight climate change. So has effectively divested himself and his family from Patagonia personally, created a trust so that the profits of the company, which he founded 50 years ago, Yvon Chouinard, will go to fight climate change. Basically,
this is the guy who did Let My People Surf. You see the guy who wrote that book, Let My People Surf?
I don't know.
Let My People Go Surfing, I think, or something like that. This guy's like a baller. He built this company. He treats his employees incredibly well, from what I understand. I think they own it outright. So they
own it outright.
So what they're doing essentially is similar to what Gates did with the Gates Foundation, except maybe for 100% instead of 50% or 51% of his net worth. They put his holdings in a trust. So I think they make 100 million a year in profits, they said. Let My People Surf guy. The 100 million in profits will go towards climate change or buying land that, becomes protected spaces. And
$1 billion, by the way. They sell more than $1 billion a year.
I was talking about profits.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I was just going with the profits. They have a 10% profit, $100 million a year.
Right. Yeah.
$100 million a year buys a lot of acres.
Yeah.
So I love this as a concept. And I just immediately tweeted, my plan for this weekend is I want to get some more activewear anyway. Mm-hmm. I'm exclusively shopping at Patagonia for my activewear, whatever my needs are. I'm literally, I've shopped there, of course, a couple times. I love going to the stores. This is going to be like my exclusive thing because I'm like, wow, if I shop there, it goes to, this. I'm going to, Nick says good snow pants. I'm all in.
Great snow pants, great jackets. 98% of his stock went into this nonprofit.
What percent?
Which will be called the 98%. Wow. They took they donated their shares to a trust, so they have to pay $17.5 million in taxes on that gift. And then the other 90% of Patagonia, its common shares, go to this new nonprofit called the Hold Fast Collective, which will, as you said, be the recipient of all the company's profits and use the funds to combat climate change. It's a 501c4, so it can make unlimited political contributions, and it is not a tax write-off for the family. The family is taking no tax benefit as a result of this. So unlike the philanthropic, and I am not trying to suggest that the Gates Foundation doesn't do a lot of great philanthropic work.
Yeah, they get a tax break.
It's also a tax break.
Yeah.
And, it's sort of in line with Warren Buffett saying, like, listen, the bill I get isn't I could pay more taxes.
Of course.
And this is this family, in addition to saying all of our profits are going to go toward, fighting climate change as a philanthropic effort, which is 2% of philanthropic giving right now, fighting climate change. 2% of global philanthropic giving is to fight climate change. They're also saying it's not a tax dodge.
No, it's not a tax dodge.
It's a pretty remarkable.
You had Bezos gave 10 billion. So, Bezos is 1.9% of that. This is 0.5. Like, congratulations to people taking this seriously. And I think the power move really for rich people is to buy land and preserve it. And I know Gates bought a lot of farmland, but I think it's an investment. But I also think it might be a preservation move as well.
It's problematic. That's
Well, I don't know if he bought it through the Gates. I think he bought it personally, not through the Gates Foundation, is my understanding. But I don't have enough information of that. But I know other people have bought large swaths of land, and they did this. I remember when I was in New York around the Hudson River. They wanted the Hudson River to get clean. And they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to do this Hudson River Watershed Project, I believe it was called. And one of the Kennedys and some other folks in New York just started raising money, at parties in New York. And they just went up and down the Hudson and bought the acreage around it. Well, if you own all the acreage attached to the Hudson, well, you can't dump refrigerators and oil and whatever toxins into there, or runoff.
I think there was a point at which that mattered, but I would also we need green housing. We need financing for renewable energy projects. There's a lot more that can be done than just taking land away from,
I just think it's a
the next
beautiful
wars
part
are
of the
going to be
solution.
over climate migration. So if you have set up a trust that intends to make some of that land available for climate refugees,
sure.
Great, right?
Why
but
not?
I don't know,
parks or whatever. I mean, but if you look at what's happening in the rainforests, whatever. I mean, there's enough. We have enough land for people to live on. The amount of land isn't the problem. It's how we're using it and the zoning. But I think also these people buying, what a lot of people are doing is now they're going to the farmers. The people who are selling their land in the rainforest for wood, they're not actually making that much money. So going there and making a preemptive saying, don't cut down the wood. We'll just buy the land from you.
Right. Great. I'm into that.
And you can use it. That's super cool too. Yeah. Anyway, I'm fascinated by this idea of buying forests and maintaining them. Yeah. And sure, housing is important too. Yeah. Both of these things are true at the same time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a remarkable
housing thing
move.
is because of this NIMBY. That's all Mark Andreessen's
Oh my
fault.
God. I'm not trying to derail us. I'm just saying that throughout all of history, private land ownership by the wealthy has produced issues.
Well, this is nonprofits though owning it. I'm talking about nonprofit trusts.
If it's nonprofits and the trust, I'm just
I
saying,
wonder about that.
The philanthropic solutions that we could think of, and I'm not that everything should happen. I am an everybody in the pool girl.
You're a little bit cynical about it. I understand. You're wondering if people are abusing this. Am I correct?
Yes.
Or it's the most optimal, if I'm listening correctly. Is it the most optimal? Are people abusing it? I guess are two valid concerns.
Both of those are my questions, right? I think is it the most optimal? I don't know, because what we really need to do is get off fossil fuels. So if you buy a whole bunch of land to preserve, but you take, I don't know.
It's a 50-50. Buy some land and then put up solar panels. We're all good. There we go. I mean, actually, yeah. Buy up the land.
Right.
And put a nuclear power plant in the middle. Buy the rainforest. Pop a nuke right in the middle. Nobody wants to live near a nuke.
If it's already cleared.
Yeah, listen, they probably cleared a lot of it. You just dump a nuke right in the middle of the rainforest. You run some
Now
cables.
we're getting creative.
Here we go, folks. There's a lot of memes that came out of this, but the Cousin Greg one won the day.
It really did.
I mean, life imitating art never gets old. Here's Cousin Greg. Well, my grandpa gave my inheritance to Greenpeace, which is a pretty great moment in the show. Greg is such a complex character. He's such a buffoon.
Also, shout out to Nicholas Braun, Emmy nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series. He got a nomination.
He did get nom.
And Tom won for Best Supporting Actor.
Wasn't that so perfect?
Tom won?
Tom won.
And Greg was
nominated, which was really almost the only outcome to follow.
If you're going to make a Tomlet, you're going to have to crack a couple of Gregs.
Got to break some Gregs.
Got to break some Gregs. Listen, that makes total sense to me. Tom Wise, what's his last name?
Wamsgans.
Oh, he's the great. He's the greatest.
Wamsgans. Yeah,
I just love both of these characters because they're the same person at different points in their career. They're the same person. Greg's just naive, but trying to be a shark and trying to navigate this. And then Tom is he just immediately navigates this. And there's so much more to talk about streaming. So why don't we bring our good friend Lon Harris on to double down on streaming news. Welcome back to the program, Lon Harris. It's time for you to beat the holiday rush with SnackMagic and their new partner in crime, SwagMagic. Yes, SnackMagic and SwagMagic are a global gifting platform that I have used and loved. It's stress-free, and it's a customizable way for you to delight your employees and your customers. All you need is the recipient's email. You don't need their address. What happens with SnackMagic is you take your 100 customers you love, you take the 100 consultants you love and that you want to show customer love for or partner love for. And what do? You email them. And then they get a little link that they click on and they can see thousands of curated snacks, drinks, office supplies, and now branded swag options. How annoying is it when somebody sends you swag that you don't like? You throw it right in the garbage. Whether you want to delight one person or 1,000, you can do it in the same amount of time. Boom. You just put the email addresses into SnackMagic and they do all the work. You can get 10% cash back on up to $1,000 until October 15th with the code HOLIDAY. Holiday. It would be so nice. Just see more at snackmagic.com/twist, snackmagic.com/twist, and use the promo code, like Madonna says, HOLIDAY. Okay, we got a lot to get through. I don't know what's
Let's
going
get
on.
to
It's
it.
every week, This Week in Streaming becomes a docket that runneth over.
It's like it's a huge part of the economy or something.
Well played. Well played. I guess
Thank you.
2 out of my 9 J trades are based on this thing.
Well, what do we make
where
in
do you want to
America
start?
anymore? We just make shows. That's what we
and
make.
by the way, this is Lon Harris. You can follow LONS on Twitter if you want to get a nice mixture of, full Bernie Krat plus.
It's really not a lot
I
of Bernie. I really don't post a lot of Bernie.
I love
It's like
Lon's
one Bernie
Twitter.
for every 9 interesting insights.
it's
Love
you
it.
make it sound like I'm Eugene V. Debs over there, and it's mostly about TV shows. Like, let's be honest.
I was about to say,
Way more
10%
And then
Bernie,
once in a
90%.
while, just like some full content awesomeness that I wish I said.
Yeah, he does do some full content stuff. I'm just giving fair
Love it.
warning to the 17%
Contact, rather.
Listen, if you're a
Sax
big
fans
Matt
who are
Walsh
listening right
fan,
now
you're
and-
maybe not going to be into it.
my delightful.
Good for you, by the way.
Brigade.
Okay, where
Go
are
ahead,
we going to
Molly.
go here, though? Are we going
Yeah, Molly, keep us on
Emmys?
track.
Are we going Jason's favorite movie, Blade Runner? Like, do we want to talk about Zaslav? More murders? Almost as many murders as House of the Dragon?
I mean, there's that Goldman Sachs conference that's going on this week. So every streaming CEO has spoken there. So we could go through all the stuff they're talking about. They're arguing about how much Hulu's worth. And then Backish is basically giving away that they're going to merge Paramount Plus and Showtime fully at some point. It's more at this point, I think, a when than an if. And I already
why don't
did
you
it.
start?
You can already bundle them.
Yeah, let's start with that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Whatever you think.
what
Lon.
are the biggest headlines coming out of this? So what is this conference?
Goldman Sachs, they're having a conference. I believe it's in LA. It's tech, it's communication, whatever. It's one of those excuses for every CEO to get on stage and talk about how great they're doing and how good everything is going and how
Buy our
promising the future look and buy our stock. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the biggest headline was the Wall Street Journal earlier this week published a report that was basically within Paramount Global, they're having a lot of discussions about dropping Showtime as a freestanding streaming service and just roping it in as part of your Paramount Plus subscription. There's already a bundle that's lower cost that I do, so you can already get Showtime content pulled in through Paramount Plus. But this would just be dropping the Showtime would become, like how FX works with Hulu. It's a hub within this larger system, not its own service that you have to add on.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. We're seeing the premium cable networks, HBO, Epix, Stars, like they're kind of in this weird in-between place right now. So all their parent companies are figuring out, what the heck to do with them. Like Epix was part of MGM, Stars is owned by Lionsgate. It's like they don't make enough content to live on their own and compete on their own, but they make enough good stuff that it's not just throwaway, like there's value there because Showtime has Yellow Jackets. They've got that new Dexter show. They did that W. Kamau Bell Cosby special earlier this year that was really good. Like there's good Showtime content. There's just,
it's not enough
No one's paying
to
for
get
that
to
alone
30,
at
40,
this point.
50 million subs, I think becomes the issue. And if you can get to, I'm going to pick a number, like if you can directly get to 30, 40, 50 million subs, then maybe you deserve to be a standalone. But if you get to 5, 10, 15, you know, which is maybe where an FX or a Showtime or like Cinemax, is that the other next down the premium cable?
Right,
Which
Cinemax
really
was
only
one of
has
those, but
Strike
now
Back.
Cinemax is owned by HBO, Warner. It's in that WB Discovery. So a lot of the Cinemax shows are sort of being pulled into HBO Max, or that's where they'll live from now on.
But they don't want to be second fiddle to another peer brand is probably the issue. So like having Cinemax under HBO as like a logo or a channel, does it actually mean anything to anybody?
I mean, that's where you get into, it becomes a branding. I mean, I think the reason this hasn't already happened would be because they want people who still have cable to pay for Showtime as a premium network. That's not going away.
Legacy.
Right. Just like HBO still exists technically as a cable network, so does Showtime, and they're probably not going to get rid of that. So that's the worry. If we just start letting you watch Dexter on Paramount Plus, who's going to sign up for the cable Showtime package? But at this point, I think that's becoming a minor enough concern that forget about it. You can't base your streaming future on legacy cable networks in 2022.
One thing I've also noticed that I sort of want to ask you about is that there's a lot of deals on streaming services right now. Yeah. Like I noticed that Disney is offering a big discount for signups. I think it was Peacock is like sign up for $1. Like between that and sort of this conversation about folding in the smaller, networks into what sort of sound like cable bundles, like the competition is real out here.
It's very real. And I think we're in the very last gasp of maximize subscribers. Like at the same conference, this Goldman Sachs conference, Gunnar Weidenfels, the CFO of WB Discovery, he gave a presentation and he was talking about, first of all, every streaming service is underpriced in his opinion. They all should raise their prices. And the other thing he was saying is we're done with the era of all of these companies are giving away content for cheap to try to maximize subs. We're now turn them into a real business. You got to actually earn money. You're not spending more than you're making. And so I think that's what we're in this very last ditch effort to let's sign up as many people as we can before the end of this quarter, because after that, we're tightening our belts and all this stuff is going away and we got to start focusing on maximizing revenue and profit.
That seems uniquely like a Warner problem or challenge because they have $50 billion in debt. When they put those companies together, they have to service the debt. If you're running a startup, you know that every little bit of help counts. Between running your team, building the product, getting compliant, hiring people, studying, customer support, everything. It's overwhelming. I know that. I work with y'all every day. But the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub is here to help you. They're going to help you build a better startup from day one, whether you're plugged into Silicon Valley or not. The Microsoft for Startup Founders Hub is a digital platform created by founders for founders, and they give you amazing benefits. The first one, right off the bat, unbelievable. Up to $150,000 in Azure credits, and then one-to-one technical advisory on scalability, best practices, security, your tech stack, all that stuff. And you get access to a huge mentor network, plus free dev tools like GitHub Enterprise, access to partners like OpenAI, Bubble, and others, free Microsoft software, including Outlook and Teams, and much, much more. The program is open to everyone. There's no fundraising requirements. You don't need to know somebody. They want to support all founders. It takes just 5 minutes to apply, and startups get all these massive benefits immediately. So learn more and sign up for Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub today. You're going to write this down right now. Stop what you're doing, get a pen, get a paper, aka.ms/thisweekinstartups. That's simple. aka.ms/thisweekinstartups. And as we've seen, they've been doing cuts, and General Zadzov has been coming in.
Layoffs to the ad team just this week.
Beautiful. This is what General Zadzov has to do. He has to come in and bow
that was
before
HBO
Zod.
Max that
Kneel
had the
before
big,
Zadlov.
The big
He's the heavy. This is what he's got to do.
So
He's got to cut.
Let's go to this guy who doesn't even wait until the glow is off of the HBO Emmy wins to
I'm
get
hoping that he fired people.
Again.
This is my hope, Molly. I hope while people were at the Emmys, that's when he did the layoffs. During the Emmys. They get back from the Emmys. They got a pink slip. Let's go.
These were ad salespeople. So it wasn't like he was. Gene Smart didn't get a pink slip from Hacks when she got home from the Emmys.
I love that show. Keep going. Keep going.
She's great.
What did Zod do now, General Zod?
I don't do it. I mean, that was the
off.
big WBD story this week. Was they're probably going to raise the prices on HBO Plus and Discovery Plus if they feel like they're severely underpriced. I believe Chapek said that about Disney Plus too. That he feels that they're. Well,
that was their strategy. Didn't they come out at $6 or $7? That was absurd.
Yes, they came out at an absurdly low one, and now they're going to raise it because the ad package is coming out. So for $7.99 a month, you'll be able to get Disney Plus, but it will have ads. You'll have to go up to $10.99 a month, ad free.
Who's not spending?
I mean, I think
$3 more for no ads.
I think people are going to
should be $15 without ads. $15.
Right. Well, that's what Chapek was basically saying this week. Is it's still underpriced, and it'll probably.
What does it cost to go to the movies for the average person? What is it? I mean, I know for me, I go to the movies at a fancy, dancy place. It costs me, I think, $18 a ticket for these. Crazy...
I mean, in LA, it's $12 to $15
it's
per
always,
ticket,
right? Yeah, minimum.
just for the ticket, and then
I think
everything else is on top.
I think the cost of one movie ticket makes it easily justifiable.
Well, sure.
So if a movie ticket's $12 to $15, that's easily justifiable.
Especially if you're talking about a service that you're watching a lot of things on per month. I mean, there are those services like I've been saying, Paramount Plus or even Disney, where there's a few shows at a time that are sort of must-sees. Apple, it's a more curated thing. But if you're on Amazon or you're on Peacock or you're on Netflix, it's new stuff all the time. They're throwing it at you constantly. Hulu's,
and I think as they consolidate, that's where we're going to see the ability to raise prices. Like right now, the thing is that they're, whatever, I've got 6 or however many I have. I don't even know. I'm not paying $15 for each of them. That will cause me to go full General Zod on my streaming service subscriptions, But if it gets to the point where it's just 3 or 4, I
think the breaking point is when people see $20. I think you have to think about it at 20. I think when you're 15 and under, it's a no, you don't even think about it. That's my position. And I think the $7 one brings in people who, to use a term, are, maybe the bottom third of earners in the country, because they might actually care about 15. I think you look at also like an hour of labor too. That's how I used to look at the world, is I would look at the world of how many hours do I have to work at $3.50 an hour to afford what I was going to do. And it was I do
think there is something beyond price too, where there's just like fatigue at the idea of having to have all of these services. Like
exactly,
you hear that a lot from people where it's like the idea behind streaming was it was supposed to be different from cable, and we didn't need to have everybody's service. And it was just 1 or 2 things and we could find everything there. And so I think there is, just like we used to see when Inside was apps for your phone, we would get amazing reviews. People loved our apps, but then it would be like, but would you install this on your phone? And they'd be like, no, I have enough apps. I don't want any more, not one more app on my phone.
Or they install it and sign up and then don't use it, which is always soul crushing. You're like, oh my God, 5 stars, but I don't open it every day.
It's going to be
great
when
There's a huge mental barrier. Like you just feel like that's too many apps. I don't want that many apps on my phone. And I feel like people feel that same way. Like that's too many services. I don't want to have that many services.
They already feel that way. You can't, you don't know what things are on. It's going to be great when one overarching service comes in and says, hey, let me offer you like a bundle of all of these channels for one monthly cost. And then you'll just be able to search across. You could have a guide and it would show you which channel things are on. That would be like amazing.
So many
I use Roku
trying to make this work
like that now. I actually use Roku as though my streaming services are my cable subscription.
Oh, Roku consolidates them all in a menu nicely?
Yeah.
It does, and it's searchable. So now I just go to, I have my Roku TV. I go to the home screen. I search for whatever show Lon told me to watch because I have no idea what service it's on.
Which, by the way, this
Roku pulls it up and is like, it's on Netflix. Boop. And I'm like, thank you.
Which, by the way, was Steve Jobs' vision for this was you just use Siri, you say what you want, and it comes up. When you are using the Apple remote, there's a thing called Apple TV, not confusing at all. And what that does is, it doesn't take you to Apple TV Plus to see Ted Lasso.
No.
It takes you to a service that is supposed to be a consolidation of every title. A hub. They call it the hub, right? Now?
I mean, everybody's trying to get
Apple
that
called everything
hub
the
thing,
hub.
like Just Watch. There's tons of these new apps and services come up all the time that are trying to do this. Roku and Apple are probably the closest to anybody to
when you do it on Apple, you now in the settings, it's so confusing because you either go to Apple TV Hub,
Right.
Or you can reprogram that button on your remote to go to your home screen where you have your apps and you can pick the individual HBO app. So if you go to Hub, Molly, and you pick
So you
industry,
have to reprogram it to do the thing that you want to do.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
that
want to
sounds
go
like
pick.
Apple.
I want to. It
why I
turns
don't
out the
have that.
dedicated app for HBO is a great experience. I want to be in that app. I don't want to be in Hulu watching HBO. I want to go in the HBO one because it has like all the extras and stuff like that neatly laid out. So this is where like it's kind of happening, but it's just wildly confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's just a tendency among people to feel like, well, I have 3 services. It doesn't matter how great this 4th one is. It doesn't matter how cheap it is.
I'm at my limit.
Exactly.
I'm at
It's
my
too
limit.
confusing.
I'm not in the market for a new streaming service right now.
Happened to me
Thank
with
you.
cars.
It's the
happened to me with
choices
cars.
problem. Like we have too many choices, and so we just start to
Yeah.
like simplify. Like I just want
And I
this.
think like Peacock and Paramount Plus, like I do feel like on some level that's what's happening. It's not that they're that much worse than these other services. It's just people already had 3 or 4 and they were like, I'm good. I don't need it. I'm fine.
I literally want to get like a beater up Jeep to take on the beach and stuff like that, and in the snow at Tahoe, whatever. And I really want to get a Corvette. I haven't had one for over a decade. And for me, it's just like with cars. I'm like, you know what? I got 3 cars. It's just enough. It's enough already with the maintenance, with the tires. I can only drive one at a time. I'm only driving 50 miles a week now, 100 miles a week. It's like, it makes no difference in my life.
For you, it's cars. For most people, it's
Streaming service.
Exactly.
I'm talking about getting even
For me, it's
the
like
prospect.
pairs of jeans. Like I already have 2.
No,
of
I'm
those.
talking about like a beat up. I want to get like a 15 grand Jeep Wrangler that's 10 years old that I can just beat on. And I just
a camping car.
the registering of it, the
like my car.
keeping the tires.
Right, like most people's vehicle.
That's just my.
I have that obsession though, like with like a 2005 BMW X5. That's
Yeah,
like
great.
the camping car I totally want to buy. Okay, let's move on to Blade Runner, shall we? We got
Yeah.
Blade Runner. We got a new show to watch. Not just Blade Runner. We also have a show about Spotify. Let's talk about upcoming TV. Blade Runner 2099 was green-lighted. Do we say green-lighted or green-lit?
I usually say green lit, but either is.
I like green lit
acceptable.
because it's short.
I like green-lit. It's
Trades
shorter.
will use either one. So
Yeah.
punchy.
All right. Well, it was green lit by Amazon. Nick just changed
Illuminated
it in real
in
time
amber.
because that's how on the ball he is. Because Amazon is signaling that they plan to continue to spend crap tons of money on awesome
Let's
stuff.
go.
Ridley Scott,
Love it.
executive producing a series.
Love it.
Right? This is not a
Yeah.
movie. It's a series, and it's a
Fantastic.
follow up to
Adult
Blade
Swim
Runner
did an
2049.
animated series last year. This is the first ever live action.
What was that
Blade
called?
Runner.
Lotus or something?
Black Lotus.
Black Lotus. Yeah, it was okay.
It was okay.
Dang. So yes, this is totally in line. This is a follow-up to Blade Runner 2049, which of course came out in 2017, and it's in
Which was
line with
solid.
Amazon really like picking its shots, right? Like no spray and pray here. They're going full Lord of the Rings. There's
the
no
amazing
word
thing
on budget, but
Yeah, but the thing about Blade Runner that's so amazing is it like they've had so many at bats, and we know that this is a niche thing. Like the people who love it and obsess over it, and will watch it 8 times and buy the tie-in novel and the Art of Blade Runner book, and they'll get the Blu-ray. But there's just not that many of them, and like
I'm sitting right here, Lon.
I mean, I'm one of them too. But like, because when Villeneuve, who did Blade Runner 2049, his next big project was Dune. And people were like, oh man, it's going to be the same thing. It's another one of these niche sci-fi properties. But that one was a big hit. So it does look like it's Blade Runner just has there's a limited audience.
Got a core
that's into
audience
Blade
of,
Runner.
whatever, tens of millions of people, not 100 million. Who
Right. It's not
dig
a
this.
Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings.
Right from
level
it's the next tier
property.
down because let's face it, it's intelligent. And
so
it's
are you saying you doubt this choice? You're not so sure about this choice? I mean, Lord of the Rings
listen.
also, same thing, right? Like niche geek.
I
kind
love
of.
it.
I
I'm
love
super
it.
pumped. I can't wait for this show. I mean, I liked Ridley Scott's other big expensive show nobody watched, Raised by Wolves. I was the only one who was into that.
Yeah, I couldn't get through it.
on
I got,
HBO Max. So I know I'm in. It's just to me, I don't think the breakout potential of a Blade Runner series strikes me as like limited. I just know there's a lot of people that have that. Like it's a little slow, it's a little cerebral, it's not for everybody, and like it has its
Artistic.
fans. But yeah, I don't know.
So what do you think
relies
that's
on
about? Though? What does that
cinematography.
say about Amazon's choices? Because that's where the money's going, right? Is these big, somewhat limited.
Well, I would imagine this one's going to be cheaper than Rings of Power.
It's going to be definitely scaled down from that, right?
I mean, I don't know. Like you could do a cheaper, like obviously there's expense and you got to build future Los Angeles and like there's action, but you could probably rein in a Blade Runner project more than like epic fantasy.
I would do this Molly, if you're asking about Amazon strategy. I think the strategy is executives getting to go to premieres and for employees to feel great about Amazon.
Yep. So don't get attached.
Instead of buying ads on TV shows, just buy the TV show and it's an ad for Amazon because you put the logo in the front. Yeah. So you could, I know this sounds crazy, but what's an underserviced fan genre that feels ignored, that has, I don't know, 25, 50 million people in it? Is there some show, like what are the shows that you guys...
Buffy.
Perfect.
Well, I mean,
perfect example,
doing
Buffy.
The Expanse was the
Expanse.
key example. Like he's already done that, where he came in, swooped in, saved the niche show that had a diehard but not very big audience.
Perfect way to make people feel good about Amazon, the brand, the company, the institution, make a little bit of money off of it. And if it loses a little bit, it makes a little bit. It just draws people into the orbit of Amazon. And it makes people have an affinity for Amazon. So you're adjacent to buying stuff on Amazon, cloud computing, Amazon Basics, Whole Foods. It just makes people feel good about the brand. I look at it in a way as like monetized marketing.
I think that's it's a good observation. And it kind of, it's like Amazon internalized the lessons of Comic-Con, right? And the lessons of fandom. Yeah. And the importance of, in a way that Netflix hasn't, right? If you're just like spray and pray populist fare, then you have people who might just default to you because it's there and there's a lot on it, but you don't have the love. Like fandom is a powerful thing. It creates the internet army that protects you throughout your, existence. It's what people line up for at Hall H at Comic-Con. Like, I do think that Amazon seems to understand that love can be more powerful than numbers. It's like podcasting game.
And there is a personal touch to this too. Like we mentioned The Expanse. Jeff Bezos, a big outspoken fan of those novels, who, when they bought the show, was like, I love this series. I love these books.
Dude, what do you think I would be doing if I was in his shoes? Right. I'd be like, let's go. Gladiator, the series. Black Hawk Down, the series. Right. Blade Runner, the series. I would be
totally.
I think
throwing
he's just a hard
$100 million bag out the window.
But this is why I'm saying don't get attached to these shows, because he's gone now, friends, and AWS is Jassy's bag. So don't get too comfortable with Amazon's media.
As predicted by us, Amanda Seyfried, is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Won for her Elizabeth Holmes portrayal. Congratulations.
So amazing. Congratulations.
And that dance she did? Her awkward Asperger's robot dance.
That robot dance is what won it
with her headphones in, and she's trying to what was the guy's name?
God, it's amazing.
Who's her number two? Who's going to jail for longer than her?
Sunny Balwani or
when she does the equivalent of a lap dance for Sunny Balwani to try to make him with the her weird smoothie. It's this is the least sexy thing I've ever seen. Like I'm trying to give her the better, let her have her moment of being desirable on screen, and it was just I
don't think that was the plan.
Feeling nauseous. It's just
now
is this person coming closer to me?
And now we have a new show. Now we have a new, as predicted.
Well, thank you for getting the segue,
future, right?
Thank you for the segue. I was trying to key up the segue. Give it. Let's go.
Time for you to get there, man.
I know. Go ahead.
Got to jump ahead.
We're on time.
As predicted, though, the tech industry is the new. It's the IP of the future. And
it's like
Lon
the Marvel universe.
It's like the Marvel universe. Lon alerted us to a fictionalized series about Spotify called The Playlist.
From Sweden. This is a Swedish show, so we're gonna have to watch it with the subtitles on. They made their own.
No, you don't. Everything on Netflix is dubbed. I watched some of these Korean.
Oh yeah, you could watch the dub.
I watched some of the Korean dramas with my daughter, and she just wants it in English. She doesn't want to do subtitles.
Oh really? No, the dub is so weird, but okay.
Yeah, I don't like the dub, but you could
for
watch
a 12-year-old. It's kind of hard.
Yeah,
they will definitely dub because they put a trailer up in English. So whenever they do that, that means they're going to dub it for sure.
Do we
I love that when the mouth is not anywhere
Yeah,
near.
it doesn't match, but that's okay.
do we have a sense that the Spotify origin story is this dramatic?
This is going to be the most boring story ever told.
Like it
Yeah,
is,
I
right?
feel like it's a lot of negotiations with music publishers and
Right.
the
Yeah,
music
It's going to be
industry.
terrible. There's nothing interesting. Like, I think like they had one party where somebody drank too much and puked. Like, that's going to be like the big controversy is like,
Yeah.
oh my God, did you see Sven? Sven,
But I
he
mean,
got
you
tagged
gotta-
at the Christmas party. He puked on Daniel Ek's shoes. It was crazy.
No, the Stockholm startup
terrible.
guys, they want their own
all
show.
lutefisk.
You gotta let them have a show.
It's
only thing
based on
here-
a book.
Okay.
The book Spotify Untold by Swedish authors Sven Karlsson and Jonas Legenhofold. The book, I made that. I have no idea. The book is
I mean, the
described
name
as,
is
quote,
LEGONHUFVUD.
I think I did great as far as I'm concerned. That was like,
you don't want me
that's
going for that one.
my North Dakota roots right there. The book is described as, quote, a David versus Goliath story about how strong convictions, unrelenting willpower, and big dreams can help small players take on the titans of tech.
Ooh. I'm sorry, what was the
Like
story
it
about?
might be a perfectly fine
And
business
then they
book, but
released
I don't know.
the Mac OS desktop version. Oh, and it crashed everybody's computer.
Crashed all the Spotify's.
I mean, come on. And then Steve Jobs said, we're going to build our own, and hung up the phone. Like, literally, that's going to be the scene. It's going to be Daniel Ek on line one. It's like, Mr. Jobs, we'd like to borrow you. He's like, I'm sorry, who is this? It's Daniel Ek. I'm sorry, what are you calling about? We're making a streaming service where you can play music. He's like, yeah, congratulations. It's called iTunes. Yeah, but in Oz, you're going to pay a subscription fee instead of paying 99 cents. Oh, really? Wow, you're a genius. I never thought about that. Goodbye. Like, that's literally going to be the scene.
I mean, Spotify did win.
Yeah, I mean, like I
But
realized
It's
when I
still
was
not a
reading
good
this, like
book.
I don't actually know the Spotify story. Like I know it appeared on my computer one day, and now I have
I
it to
lived
listen to
it.
music.
I lived it.
But if it didn't
they got the
explode-
rights in Sweden. They got the rights in some countries in Europe. In America, they couldn't get the rights. The PR people were giving American journalists access to it with like.
Right, I remember I had it for like a month.
Exactly, I
and
had
then
it for a
they
month
took
or two.
away.
I mean, the rollout
Yeah.
was very dramatic, and certainly negotiating with the music industry is no joke, but it's not good TV. You know, it's like a lot of.
right.
Here's what they need to do, Molly. They need to
it.
start with, we signed Joe Rogan, and he had Alex Jones on.
Start
That's
there.
the interesting story.
Start
the
there.
podcasting story is interesting. People quitting. Did you hear what Joe Rogan said? The guy being like, "Oh my God, we
true,
gave $100 million. You gave $100 million to $200 million to this guy, and you didn't listen to the podcast. Did you know he said this on the podcast?"
When you get to cast, you get who's going to play Neil Young, who's going to play David Crosby,
Now
who's
that's
gonna play
interesting.
Joe Rogan,
That's
who's going to
fun.
play Jordan Peterson. You know,
And it's like a
then you get to-
6-episode limited series.
That's the fun of it.
Here's the thing
Yeah.
about Spotify. Young men are addicted to the service and then they can't get anybody's, you know,
Did you see
I can't
that,
even, they won't even distribute me. And, you know, young men are paying for it and they keep paying. They keep paying with their souls, Molly.
I'm just holding up my red flag. I'm not listening to a word of this.
yeah,
Did you guys see that Chris Pine said his character
Sign up
in
for
Don't
me on
Worry,
Rumble.
Darling,
I'm
the
on
new
Rumble.
Olivia Wilde movie, is Jordan Peterson. He said he based it on Jordan Peterson.
I know. I can't wait to see it.
Very excited
cannot
to see
wait to
Chris
see.
Pine doing his Jordan Peterson impression.
Oh, well, time to go.
All right, everybody, that's it. I didn't mean to trigger you.
Yes, you
No,
did.
but join Rumble because
you
I'm doing
did.
I'm on Ben Shapiro and I'm interviewing
Yeah,
Trump
you
from
did.
Mar-a-Lago. He's been framed. You know, young men look up to Trump.
Line.
Stop. It's turning
You're
into Kermit the
wonderful
Frog.
as always. I did start watching Paper Girls, but then I heard it's already canceled, so I don't
It
think I
already
can
got,
keep going with
but
that
the
one.
time since I recommended it to you,
I
they
know.
brutally canceled it.
Stupid.
It is shocking to me that Brian K. Vaughan's stuff is not translating to TV. He did Why the Last Man. He did Paper Girls. These are such great books.
They're
that they
so
just
great.
can't. Something about it in the adaptation is getting lost. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you House of Dragons 4, Mom?
I hope for the next one. I read all the recaps. I am up to date.
Did you read? You did House of 4?
Yeah,
I'm all caught up. Yeah, I'm all caught up.
I mean,
I'm determined it's
I
just
had to look
prostitution
away.
porn. It's prostitution
I had
porn.
to look away at a minute because I was just like, I don't.
No, thank
spoiler
you.
alert. I'm like, incest, brothel. I just don't feel great watching this. It was a little But I guess that's what happened in those times. People married their uncles.
Light marital rape.
People always say that. Like, they don't have to show. If they didn't want to do a story about that, they didn't have to. It's not like that was happening constantly.
I feel like this is like, okay, now I'm just going to get us in trouble. But you know how like we started and the showrunners were like, we're going to definitely not repeat the mistakes of Game of Thrones when it comes to the treatment of women. It feels like this is actually just like a Me Too revenge romp. The whole thing. It's like, no, actually, we're going to make a whole series about how you ladies have been treated throughout history. And then we're going to be like, it's history. What can we do?
It is a weird bait and switch that beforehand, so much of the conversation was about, this is going to be empowering for women. We're not going to do.
Well, I mean, she's an empowering character, but
no, she's not.
Well, I mean, she rides a dragon and has crisped a bunch of people. But
you could make the case, but it's very like.
Then you get these gaslighty articles that are like, it's actually all about the women and the power of the women. I'm like, no. It's prostitution porn.
They're putting them through a whole lot before they get to the redemptive
that does seem to be happening. I agree with that. I'm 50-50 on it.
It's a little bit like it's the bait and switch part. It's like if you hadn't had that conversation up front, it'd be one thing. But instead, it literally is like, oh my God.
I knew this was an issue because, at the end they do a recap because the shows are so complex and they're like so muddy and dark and all the names are hard to follow. There's a lot of character points here to keep up with. So at the end, they're like, hi. I'm a female. I'm involved with the production of this show. Let me address the issues you have with how females are treated in the show.
Right.
It's just like, so I wanted to do this. And she's talking literally about the brothel sex scene. And she's like, I wanted to do this in a new way from a woman's perspective, because normally this is the man's gaze. So let me show you that, how I manifested the woman's gaze, because women do have sex as well and enjoy it. There literally is like a short film after the episode.
Yeah, and I do their like 10-minute making of the show. Did you see it in that right after?
Instance?
And
did you see it or watch it or no?
Like to Lon's point,
I don't usually
you don't have
watch
to tell that story.
Just because I like to have my own reactions instead of parodying what the HBO people said. So
you don't want them to give you their talking points. Right. Right. That's professional. That's professionalism. Yeah.
It's so weird.
All right, listen, Lon, we could talk to you for hours. We always do.
We could.
So we're going to try to be disciplined today and let you get out of here. We're going to get out of here. I just also want to say shout out to industry. I'm very much enjoying the show. It's Euphoria meets Euphoria meets Billions, as you described it. Yeah. Freaking great. And the actors are all amazing. And there's only one actor I recognize.
Ken Leung from Lost.
Ken Leung, who I love.
Yeah, he's
Miles great. We got to cast him in our show.
Maybe I'll start that one since your recommendation for me got the boot. All right. See you next week.
Lon. See you next week.
Bye, Lon.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And thanks again for our good friend Lon Harris for joining us. Follow him, twitter.com/LONS. And remember, stump the Lon. Ask him, tell him 2 things you like, and ask him for 3 more. That's what I want you to do. Stump the Lon. You can put the hashtag on Stump the Lon, @Lons on Twitter. Here's the 2 things I love. Give me 3 more like it. He loves it.
I have yet to see anybody win this game, so we'll bring it on. And then stay tuned tomorrow, of course, for another great Friday variety show, a little news, a little Series A, and of course, OK Boomer.
And congratulations to all the newly rich Figma employees joining Launch Fund 4. First webinar tomorrow, Friday. Do you know there's over 600 people signed up for our Launch Fund 4 webinar?
I do. I'll be there. I'm stoked.
I'm not nervous, but I'm excited.
It's a lot of incoming. Yeah.
That's all. I mean, it's a little crazy. And we have over 1,000 people signed up to go to the webinar. And I decided I'm going to do a story, either Fortune or Forbes or Reuters. Somebody emailed me and then I talked on CNBC about it last night. People are like intrigued by this raising a fund in public.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about it. If you're interested, just email me Kalakanis, my last name, @launch.co. And me or somebody on my team will get there. I'm getting 20 to 50 people a day emailing me about it. So mission accomplished with this. I think raising in public is cool. It's going to be a little extra pressure.
It's really and you're doing it at the timing is perfect because it's this exact moment when VC is becoming more mainstream. You're already a celebrity investor. To give this to have this brand at this moment that VC is becoming more mainstream and to give this look behind the curtain is catnip.
I think it's kind of fun to everybody get educated and make a good decision. Somebody was like, is this for everybody? Like, absolutely not. It's for accredited or qualified purchasers only. So it's only for 6% of the country. But I do think in the coming years, maybe Launch Fund 5, 6, or 7, we would be able to set up some kind of a pool, Molly, and say, hey, to our family members, non-accredited people who are friends, if you want to put in $100 or $500 instead of going out this weekend and having a dinner or whatever, take a flyer, learn about venture, get educated, go ahead and do it. I think it's really interesting. I'm a little upset at myself, if I'm being honest. I wanted to do this for Launch Fund 3. I don't want to say I felt bullied, but I kind of got bullied into not doing it. Like a lot of people were like, it's just don't do it. And I'm like, but my whole career is about increasing access to this asset class.
Right.
Why not do it? Like, because nobody does it, because that's just the tradition, because it's complicated. And I'm like, not for me. Not complicated for me. It's extra work. I'm like, not for me. It is a lot of extra work.
But it is, it's extra work.
It is a lot more work. I can tell you, these 20 to 50 emails a day. I asked people, when you email me, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, because I want to know who I'm in business with, obviously. And even if it's a small check, even if it's a 10K check or a 25K check or a 50K check, which is nothing for an accredited or qualified purchaser, obviously. It's like going away for the weekend. I've seen people play poker hands for that amount, much even larger amount. So it's not a lot for a rich person to put in a 50K check, but I still want to get to know them because I have a limited number of slots. So I'm trying to get to know everybody. And with 1,000 people already signed up, if this gets to 2,000, it's impossible for me to do that. So that's where I'm now thinking, how do you even CRM?
Yeah.
How do you even build relationships with that many people? And that's why I decided to do these group webinars, because I can reach 600 people a webinar or more. And so tomorrow's the first one, and then I'm going to do 3 of them. So one a week for 3 weeks. So if you're hearing this, you missed week 1, but week 2 and 3, we still have slots open. Calacanis, CALACANIS @launch.co. Not a com, CO.
All right.
All right, everybody.
See you tomorrow. Like launch a company. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.